I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, March 18th. It's the Montpelier-Roxbury Board of School Directors. And as we get started, I wanted to give a big note of congratulations from the board to our 7th grader, Issa Lyle Garces, for winning the state spelling bee. That is very cool. And I don't know if they still do this, but ESPN used to broadcast the National Spelling Bee, and I sure hope they do. I sure hope they still do. That would be very cool. So yes, welcome to our audience here for the meeting, and to folks online. The first order of business is public comment, and this is a chance for the board to listen and take in input and feedback about our schools and how things are going. The board does not respond during this time. It's really just our chance to have a listening session. And as we have in the past, if we have a large number of people who would like to have public comment, so let's see, can I see a show of hands of people who would like to make public comment tonight? Great, so thank you very much. And online, could we also see a show of hands of folks online? We'll see 2 or 3. Okay. We want to hear from all of you, and we also have other business that the board needs to tackle with our agenda today. So I will be imposing a 2-minute time limit for the spoken public comment. And of course, if you have more to say than those 2 minutes allow, we would love to have you submit written public comment to schoolboard@mpsvt.org, because we definitely want to hear what everybody has to say, and as well take care of the work that we have to do tonight. Think with that, the last thing I usually say at the top of public comment is, as I myself am a nervous public speaker, we also know that it takes a lot to get up in front of your peers and a very formal looking body of people here to say what you have to say. So for that, we really deeply appreciate you being here and sharing what you have to share with us, and also recognize that sometimes our voice and emotions can get the best of us, and that's totally normal. So with that, we will go ahead and invite the first person who'd like to speak to come to the front. Thank you. I will. Hi.
I am Joe Carroll, and I'm the Flexible Pathways Educator at Montpelier High School. I'm a resident of Montpelier, and I'm the president of our teachers union, the MREA. I've worked here for 11 years, and I've lived in Montpelier for almost all of that time. I have 3 requests tonight. First, I'm asking that you listen to all the educators who will be speaking with curiosity. Educators are the ones working with students every day. They bring expertise, experience, and perspective that are essential to making informed decisions. When that expertise is overlooked, the quality of the decisions suffer. Second, I'm asking that you establish consistent opportunities to hear from us. We've already proposed regular, streamlined ways to engage with you in dialogue, and those proposals were declined. As a result, educators will now be forced to compress complex realities into 2-minute public comments without any opportunity for meaningful exchange. That's not functional, and that's not a good way to communicate with a large stakeholding group in our district. I'm asking you to reconsider and to commit to regular 2-way engagement with educators. Third, work with educators. Don't work around them when addressing problems. Disagreement is not disrespect. Controversy can coexist with civility. And in a system as complex as ours, a healthy amount of criticality is necessary. Yet what we hear again and again is that concerns are dismissed or reframed rather than addressed collaboratively. That approach erodes trust and prevents real problem solving. The issue is not how educators are expressing or reacting to concerns. The issue is that the concerns themselves remain unresolved. When we offer feedback proposals or bargaining positions, we're opening a conversation. Being met repeatedly with no is not only unsustainable, it's a failure to engage with the expertise of the people closest to the students. And let me be clear, we understand the constraints you're up against. We understand limited resources, competing priorities, and the need for trade-offs. What is difficult, however, to accept is a pattern in which efforts to improve our systems in the service of our students are met with dismissal by those who are not in the classrooms. That is also untenable.
Hey, Joe, that is 2 minutes.
Can I respectfully ask for 30 extra seconds, Mia, so I can finish? This profession is operated on an implicit understanding. Educators may not get the time or compensation that they deserve, but their expertise is respected and taken into account. Right now, that understanding feels broken, and we're all here tonight to help you repair it. My final ask is to come back to the negotiations table and work with us on solving problems together. And a final process point, Mia, we have some hands online. We'd like to go to them next, if that's okay with you in the format, and then we'll continue with the in-person speakers.
That works just
Okay.
fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lucy Schmidt is up. Okay,
Hi, my name is Lucy Schmidt. Sorry.
it's not you. It's not you. That's our speaker. I think we can handle that on our end. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Lucy Schmid, and I've worked at MHS and MSMS for the last 6 years. And I'm just letting you know that I'm here to support my colleagues and my union. And that's why I'm here tonight. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Lucy. Harry.
Hi, good evening, school board members. I don't know if you can see me or not, but I'm here with my kids, so forgive the background noise. And I had prepared longer comments, so I'll just email them to you. But I'm a social studies teacher at Montpelier High School, a resident of this community, and the mother of 2 future MRPS students. I'm here to urge you to reconsider what a fair and sustainable salary schedule would look like for the educators in our district. There is a persistent misconception that K-12 educators have more time off than other professionals. Anyone who lives with an educator knows that this couldn't be further from the truth. The demands of this job extend far beyond our contractual hours. We stay late to organize our classrooms, grade after our own children go to bed, spend hours lesson planning on Sunday afternoons, and devote entire days over break to assessing student work. During the summer, we write curriculum and pursue professional development. In fact, a 2022 survey conducted by Merrimack College found that K-12 educators work an average of 54 hours per week. These are not passive hours. They are intellectually rigorous and emotionally demanding. The time we have in the summer is not a luxury. It is necessary recovery time to prevent burnout, to care for our families, and to attend to the basic responsibilities of our lives that the school year leaves little room for. When considering teacher compensation, I ask that these realities be taken fully into account. Our salaries should reflect the scope, intensity, and professional nature of the work that we do. As we know, educators across the state are underpaid, educators at RPS are underpaid in comparison to other teachers in the region. This is true comparing educators to other professionals as well. And I have a lot more I can say about this, but just to bring some numbers forth from the Vermont, the Joint Fiscal Office's Vermont Basic Needs Budget and Livable Wage Report, a single adult in an urban area in Vermont needs to make $49,873 as their salary to meet basic needs. That's over $2,000 more than our starting salary in the district, just for basic needs for a single person.
Hey, Perry.
Yep.
Perry, I'm sorry, that's your 2 minutes.
Okay, and just to finish, a single parent with 2 children, we need to make over $89K, which is above even what our highest paid educators make in the district. So these are not abstract numbers. They're what we need as working people and as residents of this area to thrive and to live with dignity. And I ask that you really reconsider what a fair offer is in those conditions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Perry. Sarah. Hey, Sarah. You're on mic.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Olson. I've worked at the high school now for 10 years, and I graduated from Montpelier High School in 1999, and I am present tonight to support my colleagues and my union. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. KP. Cassandra, you are on mic.
Hi,
Oh, now you're not. Uh-oh. Oh, wait. Go ahead, KP. And you're back.
okay, am I working?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. My name is Cassandra Parentoni. I've worked in the district for 4 years and I've been at MHS for 2 of those years. And I am also here tonight to support my colleagues and my union.
All right. Thank you, Cassandra. And Alita.
Hi, everyone. This is Aaliyah Cohen. I am the school social worker at Montpelier High School. I've been here for 8 years now, and I am also a graduate of MHS in the year 1999. And I'm here to support my colleagues and our MREA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Okay, that is all for, okay, wonderful. Okay, we'll turn it back to the room. Sounds like that's everyone who wanted to speak online. Hi.
Hello, I am Chris Parker. I'm the school social worker at Union Elementary School, and I've been in that role for the past 12 years. I'm also a member of the negotiations team. I am reading a statement tonight anonymously from an elementary educator who felt more comfortable with this being read anonymously. To the members of the board, I am an elementary educator in this district. I am writing to you anonymously to speak about the reality of our work and why the current approach to negotiations is a risk to the very culture we've built. It is often noted that our district has a high retention rate and that neighboring towns facing budget crises are making difficult staff cuts. While we are grateful for the stability of our positions, retention is not the same as sustainability. Staying in a job is an act of commitment. Being supported in that job is an act of partnership. Since the pandemic, the work has changed. We are navigating a landscape of lagging social emotional skills, complex trauma, and a level of differentiation that requires us to be more than just teachers. We are stabilizers. We are doing more work in the same amount of time, often at the expense of our own well-being. When the board relies on an inaccurate accounting of our hours or declines to negotiate on working conditions, it sends a message that our professional reality is invisible to you. True professional support is an ethical imperative. When you treat us as the experts we are by offering fair compensation and robust behavioral support, you aren't just spending money. You are preventing burnout by acknowledging that the cognitive and emotional load of 2026 is higher than it was in 2019. Increasing safety, because a supported, regulated teacher is the most effective tool for a regulated, safe classroom. Fostering belonging. When teachers feel valued, that culture of respect trickles down to every student in the building. We are asking you to look beyond the spreadsheet and see the human beings who make this district run. It's not enough to simply keep your teachers, you must sustain them. Treating us with professional dignity at the negotiating table isn't just a legal obligation. It's the right thing to do for the people who spend their lives caring for our community's children. Please listen to our team, consider our proposals, and help us keep this district a place where educators can afford to thrive, not just survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Good evening. My name is Christina Kane. I am here tonight as an active member of the Montpelier-Roxbury community, as a mom of a current young student at Union Elementary School, and as a member of the MRPS faculty. I have had the honor to teach visual art at UES since the fall of 2011. In my 15 years at UES, I have seen firsthand the incredible commitment of my colleagues to their students and the professional teaching craft. My own daughter has had a truly wonderful experience in her first 2 years as a learner at UES. She loves her classroom teachers and her essential arts teachers. My child feels a strong sense of belonging and excitement for learning. My husband and I are very grateful for all the ways that teachers and staff go above and beyond to make this top-notch educational experience possible for my daughter and her peers. Personally, teaching art to young people is my life's work, and I absolutely love doing it. I've put in countless hours beyond the contracted time to continually develop my art curriculum and lesson plans, display student artwork in our halls in the community, pursue professional development, plan for all school residencies and street art murals, prepare for collaborative music and art events. I regularly work in my classroom after school, work through my lunch break, take work home, come into the building on weekends, as well as school calendar breaks. I work at all hours of the day and night, often after or before my own children are asleep. I do this because I care deeply about our children and youth, and because I believe that the time and energy that I and my colleagues put into our teaching matters to our students, their families, and our community. With my 19 years of teaching experience, I see this as a moment with unprecedented and complex challenges within our local school, our community, and the broader world. As a UES mom and as a teacher of all 351 students in grades K through 4, I have significant concerns about the emotional and physical safety of children and staff in our building. Here are some examples of dysregulation and aggression that I have experienced in my art classes this
Christina.
year at UES.
Christina, I'm sorry, that was 2 minutes.
I need,
Can you can share a couple of them?
I've put a lot of time in, please.
I'm-
Look, yeah, these behaviors are far from isolated to any one classroom, teacher, or location, and I offer this to you with the intention of painting a picture of the behaviors across the elementary school that we are experiencing. I have been kicked. I have been hit with sharp classroom resources. I have continued to teach while there's incessant loud banging on my classroom door for extended lengths of time. I have wheeled materials through a cart to another location to teach art lessons because the door to my classroom was blocked due to a crisis. On multiple occasions, I have used my body to block objects thrown at students to ensure safety. I have, on multiple occasions when student artwork was thrown across the room, I've rearranged my entire classroom to build a makeshift wall of bookshelves, storage tubs, and furniture to try to keep student artwork safe from being smashed or ripped up. I evacuated my classes to other spaces. I've come back to school late at night after my own children are asleep to clean up my classroom after such incidents so it is ready for my next day's art classes. Children's artwork on display is regularly torn off hallway walls and ripped to shreds. I have witnessed colleagues in the hall being kicked, punched, and screamed at with threats of harm and killing. Yeah, every day I see teachers and staff at UES showing up with joy, love, and dedication to do their very best on behalf of all students. I believe our committed principal, Rachel Wayland, who is the 8th principal at UES since I started there and deserving of our support, has the leadership skills and the vision to guide us through all of this to a new era of emotional intelligence and regulation in our school community. My hope is that we can rise to meet this moment together with curiosity, support, and creativity. I believe our families and neighbors hold our public schools in high value, as was evidenced recently by the voters resoundingly passing the MRPS budget. I truly believe that our collective dedication to our shared vision and our love for our students and our community is stronger than the struggles of this moment. Given what I have shared, I ask you to reconsider the reduction of the RISE social worker at UES. I ask you as the school board to please listen deeply and to collaborate with our union members and our leadership regarding the current needs of our faculty for adequate planning time, competitive professional salaries that pay a professional wage, and for protections of workplace safety that will benefit our school's learning environment and the daily experiences of our youth. Thank you for your listening.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bridget Savard, French teacher at Montpelier High School. I've worked here for 7 years, and I'm also a mother of 2 MHS students. First, let me say that I love my work and I love this school, and I look forward to it every day. I want to invite you into my perspective. As teachers, we're faced with 2 clashing sets of expectations on our work. One as hourly employees, the other as professionals. On the one hand, we receive the message that our work is hourly work. For example, we're told we can't leave the building, even if a meeting is canceled. This creates fiction around what our working hours are, predicated on the idea that we don't work outside of school. It feels disrespectful to what we do. The other version of our work, we're professionals tasked with achieving the district's most aspirational goals. For example, from the website, it is our responsibility to build systems where students' success is not determined by luck, willpower, family dynamics, or any other mitigating factor out of our control. First, we're responsible for student success, of course, regardless of students' own willpower. The implication of that statement on our time and on our well-being are profound, and the weight of that statement is heavy on all of our shoulders. If a student fails a class, it's our responsibility. Yet, I see my colleagues striving for this goal every day. It means sitting with a student for an extra hour, reteach a math problem, discussing what's happening at home. And I cut out the other examples for time. A rough estimate for each prep each day is around 40 to 60 minutes. So just to be ready for students, many of us have spent hours beyond the contract time each day. To be an effective teacher, even in the most basic level, requires more time than one is paid for in a day.
The clash of these two expectations is often demoralizing for us. We want to be treated like the professionals we are. Here are 3 concrete changes that could speak to this. 1, offer us pay that is commensurate with our level of education, responsibility, and experience, comparable with neighboring districts. 2, trust us to do our work in or out of the building and stop using school hours as the standard for how much we work. It is not. And 3, when there is a discussion about the direction, the mission, and the priorities of the schools, we should always have a voice at that table. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
good evening. My name is Lissa Noss and I am a school counselor at the high school. I've worked for 20 years in the district, the last 16 at the high school.
Hi, and I'm Amanda Payne. I'm also a school counselor at the high school and I've worked at the high school for the past 7 years.
And the statement I'm sharing represents both of our experiences. The best part of our job is how much contact we have with students. We get to spend our days with students face to face to hear what is on their minds and how we can help, whether that's helping them plan for their future, work out an issue with a peer, manage their stress, or work on communication and self-advocacy skills. It feels like an honor when a student shares their dreams for themselves or opens up about a difficult issue they are contending with. Most of our workday is spent in face-to-face appointments with students, and when we are not doing that, we are in meetings with teachers and administrators to talk about how to best help the students. Because we highly value this contact with students, and it is the main priority of our job, we usually do not get to answer emails, and we get a lot, or return phone calls until the students leave at 3. Technically, our contracted day also ends at 3, but we cannot complete all of the communications we need to do in this time frame. As a result, we work at home an average of 2 hours each evening, and on most weekends, we work an additional 3 to 4 hours. During college admissions recommendation letter writing season, we're putting in even more hours at home. We are responsible for writing a strong, supportive letter for every senior on our caseload applying to college, and we put a lot of time and care into crafting those letters. We know we are not alone carrying out this extra work at home. Our colleagues are grading, preparing lessons, and also answering emails after work hours. We think it's important to understand the true scope of our work and not minimize it. We are speaking up here today to correct the misconception that 7:30 to 3 somehow means that we don't deserve better compensation or more professional and collaborative treatment. We ask that our profession not be undervalued or diminished by a failure to acknowledge the large amounts of extra work we put into our jobs in order to show up prepared and engage directly with the students each day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I'm going to read something written by one of our union members who chooses to remain anonymous. I have the best job in the world. I get to witness the unfolding, complex, beautiful process of watching kids learn how to do life. Sometimes they let me help them. I help kids who are really struggling. I work many hours over my contracted time so I can be ready for them in person. I wouldn't rather be doing anything else. I have chosen this job and I have chosen this lifestyle. I have not, however, chosen the rate at which groceries, rent, and gas has continued to increase. In order to continue to do a job I love, I have needed to work 2 additional jobs so I can afford student loans, rent, and a car payment so I can get to work. It's just not possible without these other jobs, which can sometimes affect my ability and energy to show up for kids. They deserve me at my best. If this is me, this is so many others. Thank you.
Thank you, Allie. Yep.
All right. Hello, my name is Helen Sullivan. I teach social studies here at MHS. I am a salaried, year-round, long-term employee. Since the schedules of teachers are often under more public scrutiny than those of most professionals, I want to remind all of us what this means. Yes, the most important parts of my job take place in this building between 7:30 and 3, Monday to Friday. But my job is also done outside of this place and those times in unpredictable ways. Last week, I worked a bit over 7 hours outside of contract time on tasks ranging from checking homework, grading formative assessments, to Solon block scheduling, to completing an input form for an IEP meeting. Many weeks are busier than this one, and others are less busy. I appreciate the rhythms of the school year and the variety of tasks that my job entails. I'm a salaried professional. Over the course of the year, I do my whole complicated job. I'm also a year-round employee. I do enjoy time off in the summer. I won't pretend that's not a benefit of the job, but I also reflect on the year gone by, prepare for the year to come on my own and sometimes with colleagues. I serve on committees and I engage in professional development. For example, in the past few years, I have been part of summer committee work for capstone and scheduling, social and emotional learning, and 9th grade executive functioning skills. This work is voluntary and it is paid on an hourly basis, but what I earn does not cover the cost of summer camps for my own children on these weeks. I'm on committees because personally, that's one thing it means for me to be a professional at this stage in my career. And furthermore, I am a long-term employee. My work doesn't fit neatly into one school year at a time. My colleagues and I develop curriculum one iteration at a time, adjusting each year, always trying to improve. The process of developing the new class I will teach next year began on a summer committee 2 years ago, went through our formal course proposal process this fall, and will be supported by a week-long workshop I will attend in July. Hopefully, it will continue to develop next year and for years to come. Finally, my relationships with students span the years too, whether it's the students I have in TA for 4 years or the students I teach as 9th or 10th graders who then stop by and say hi as 11th and 12th graders. Can you imagine a school that hired a new faculty each year? As school board members, you have a different job than us, but you have the responsibility to understand key attributes of our jobs in order to effectively oversee the system that we work in, and in order to negotiate with us in good faith regarding our wages, our benefits, and our working conditions. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Allie Middleton, and this is my 4th year here at MHS as a math interventionist, and I'm here to speak on my experience today as an educator. I want to start out and say that I love my job, and it is a joy to work at our school with our students. I look forward to my time here at MHS and miss it when I am not here. I feel passionate about the work that I do and the connections I make with students. I'm here today to share some personal experience with you and some numbers. There are people in this room who have talked about all of the work they do outside of contracted time. I give them my full support and echo what they have said. I'm going to offer a different perspective. Our base salary is extremely low, and as a new teacher, it is hard to make ends meet on that salary alone. In my 6 years as an educator, I've had to maintain a second job as a bartender until this year. It's very difficult to balance my teaching work with all of the hours I needed to put in at a second job. Some days it was extremely hard to come into work because of the grueling bartender schedule that I kept. Whenever I told colleagues about the late nights that I was working, I was always, without fail, met with a, "Oh my gosh, how are you able to maintain that?" And the truth is that I did not see that I had another option. I'm a single person, which means that I'm paying for rent, my car, my student loans, and anything else all on my own. At the same time, I've been paying out of pocket for extra classes in order to finish my master's, and I could not do that on the MRPS salary alone. The decision to not work a second job this year was an extremely hard one for me. Sorry. And I felt that struggle.
I felt that struggle and worry more than ever this year. I'm going to use some data from 2024 to 2025, as that was the last time I spent a full year bartending and teaching. I was bartending only 2 days a week, and I took home $27,778 in tips compared to my take-home pay from MRPS, which was $34,658. This is a difference of only $6,880. I'm hoping you can see the difficulty, tension, and existential challenge of knowing that my teaching job is hugely important and worthwhile, but at the same time thinking that at a certain point, it's simply not possible from a financial standpoint, and that bartending 3 or 4 times a week would make it easier to be financially secure. I'm hoping that you understand that's why we ask for higher compensation. We don't want new teachers to calculate that it's just not a feasible profession. Again, I chose to stop working a second job this year because I'm passionate about what I do every day, and I knew that I needed to show up better for my students and for my colleagues. I love being an educator, but it's frustrating that in order to be the best version of myself, that means that I am struggling financially. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allie.
I'll just take this moment to just say, I love you guys. You're awesome. And this is emotional, and I'm an emotional person, so hopefully I can get through this without crying. Good evening. It's really good to see some new faces on the board this evening. I am Catherine Nunnally, the chair of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, or better known as AFSCME unit for Montpelier-Roxbury Public Schools, representing support staff, of which I am a part of, tech staff, which is Russell is a part of, and custodial staff, the backbone of the school system. Communication and collaboration are important to our membership. When decisions that affect us are being made, we should be part of the conversation, not just told what's going to happen after the fact. And we request that those decisions are made using a transparent process. Please reconsider our proposal for informal planned check-ins with AFSCME members, leadership and members, along with MREA leadership and members, so that we have the opportunity to dialogue with you, allowing you to directly hear what's going well and what could be better from our unique lenses, without an administration level filter. Working together, we can find solutions to problems and ways to fill gaps within our units, preventing expensive, non-student facing administration level job creations. Our unit members have untapped expertise and capacity for skill development. Community and workplace culture are also important to our membership. We work together to support students, staff, and the Montpelier community. We work with school leadership to make the system run smoothly. Feeling valued in our roles is crucial when our paychecks just don't go as far as they used to. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to fill out the staff climate survey. In addition to this survey, have you thought about maybe holding focus groups to get some face-to-face feedback? I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight and ask that you give my thoughts consideration as a way to strengthen MRPS. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Russell Lee. I've been employed here since 2021. Our collection of janitors, office staff, administrative assistants, computer technicians really help things run around here, and they're amazing in a crisis when we have occasional issues, internet down or chaos in the office. So please work with us as we go through these problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sadie Jones. This is my 4th year teaching music at MHS, and I am here as a member of the MREA. I am reading a script from one of our members who chooses to remain anonymous. I am an educator at MHS. I have 2 children, one at Montessori School and one at Berrytown Middle and Elementary School. When I overlay their 2 calendars for this school year with my own, there are 12 full days of school that one or both of my children don't have school, but I do. There are 9 early release days when one or both of my children don't have school, and I do. There are 11 days at least when my youngest child does not have aftercare and I need to take time off to pick him up. When totaled, this is equivalent to about 18.5 days that if I don't bring my child to work with me, I would have to take off. With our PTO being 15 sick days and 4 personal days, this simply does not add up. This does not even take into account actually being sick or my children being sick. I've been at MHS for 5 years, and every year for this reason, I have run out of paid time off. I know that our bargaining team has tried to work through solutions to this with their starting proposals, and I ask that you consider the leave time proposals as conversation starters that help parent educators like me figure out how to navigate how often I have to use leave for reasons beyond my control. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm AJ Jackson. I teach 10th grade English here at MHS. I've been at MHS for the last 5 years, and I consider myself incredibly lucky to have found myself in this special school in such an excellent school district. I am so grateful that as a teacher, I get to contribute to such an incredible school community, and that as a resident, my children benefit from the innovative learning opportunities offered by the distinguished faculty and staff at MRPS. However, moving here also involved taking a major pay cut at a time when costs of living are constantly rising and the demands placed on teachers are only increasing, as we've heard in other comments today. While working at MHS has been a dream come true for me, it is also filled with challenges that come along with the job. I feel that we should be compensated at levels that are aligned with our peers in the region and that working conditions should be improved so that faculty and staff have more time to plan lessons, assess student work, and collaborate with each other so that we can continue to provide the highest quality education to our students. It is clear that all of us in this district have incredibly high expectations for student learning and for teacher efficacy. And I feel that this should be met with commensurate collaboration with educators to create working conditions that will allow us to continue to create these high quality educational experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ.
Hello, I'm Ryan Humke, and I'm in my 9th year teaching science to 7th and 8th graders over at the middle school. And
I'm Debbie Goodwin. I'm in my 6th year at MSMS, and I teach 6th grade. And we are here as members of the MREA community.
our communities expect us teachers to be tenacious. We don't quit on our students, we problem solve. The community also expects us, both the board and the teachers, to stay in productive negotiation even when things get hard. We, the teachers, have been tenacious about staying in negotiations. The community expects us to problem solve, to work together. They expect the best of us, and we are still here, looking for a common way forward.
The communities also expect competitive salaries with our neighboring districts because salary represents respect, and our communities respect educators and education as much as neighboring towns do. We are paid less, and we have settled for less for way too long. I'm grateful for the opportunity to work here, and as we settle a contract for the years ahead, I want that contract to reflect the no excuses commitment that our mission statement includes and that teachers consistently adhere to. We, your faculty, are worth investing in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I have this much. This point in the evening, you've heard some of what I intend to say, but I am too nervous to wing it. So I'm going to read what I've written. Good evening. My name is Sylvia Fagan, and I am an MRPS educator and a Montpelier homeowner and taxpayer. This is my 22nd year teaching here in the Montpelier-Roxbury Public Schools. I truly love working here with these amazing people. I'm here tonight because, as you know, our contract negotiations are stalled, and I would like to share my perspective. Even with more than 2 decades here, I can't pretend to speak for the entire community, but I believe I have an understanding of what many in our community want and expect. I believe that many in our community expect that our professional educators dedicate themselves fully to their children. This includes communicating clearly, professionally, and regularly with stakeholders. This includes sticking with kids and families, even and especially when things get challenging. I think the community expects that the school board that represents them will stick with regular and professional communication during negotiations, not walk away from the table 3 negotiation cycles in a row, especially when the teacher team is willing to stay at the table and consider all of the board's proposals. I believe that many in our community expect that our professional educators will be fairly compensated when it comes to salary. I think the community expects that MRPS educators will be near the top salaries in Washington County, not 13% below the highest and 5% below the median. The community expects competitive salaries with neighboring districts because compensation represents respect, and this community respects educators and education as much as neighboring towns do. I think a lot about what 13% means for mortgage payments, rising household expenses, or my ability to buy a plane ticket to visit my aging parents in the summer instead of picking up summer work, like many of my colleagues must do. I believe our community expects their school board to understand that teachers make a year-round, full-time commitment to our craft, our professional learning, and development of our curriculum. In the summer, we take courses, refresh or rewrite our curriculum, and work on committees that advance the mission of the district. We are not seasonal or 10-month employees. Every summer, I get a little journal. This is one of them. And I keep notes with ideas for next year's courses. Sometimes it's things I hear my nieces and nephews talk about that I know I need to include to keep material relevant and interesting for my students. It could be material from a historical site or a museum. Sometimes it's big thematic ahas, and sometimes it's little tweaks to units that I've taught in the past. One year, it was a lot of questions about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's really fun to keep these notes. Continuing to evolve my curriculum to meet the evolving needs of young people is what keeps me going and why I enjoy coming to Montpelier High School every day. I believe my colleagues and I deserve the respect of commensurate salaries and the respect of ongoing tenacious negotiations. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Hi, I'm Eli. I teach at Main Street Middle School. I've lived in Montpelier since the 90s. I've taught some of you. I'm speaking to you in hopes that we'll find common ground and common cause when we meet for mediation next month. Our mission statement says it's our moral imperative to ensure that any child who graduates from MRPS has a limitless future. I believe that. It says that our job is to ensure that all students will learn because of what we do every single day. It says that at MRPS, every learner will be taught by a confident, highly reflective, and continually growing educator. We do this. Our students are well above the average in SAT, AP, and standardized tests. Our graduation rate is at over 90%. People move here because of what we do. I personally brought in this year thousands of dollars of NSF and NSA money for microcontrollers, virtual cybersecurity lab that I am using with my students, your children, as we speak. Not literally right now. We're passionate and we excel. It's our brand. We're worth investing in. I think most folks don't know this, but our base pay is lower than the living wage for Washington County per the MIT living wage calculator or EPAI. Our base pay is lower than many places across Vermont. It's lower than Rutland Northeast, the Northeast Kingdom, Hartford, Mount Abe, Springfield, lots of places that are not Chittenden County. Now, our base was way lower than U32, who does pay a living wage. And right now, if I went to Barry, I'd get a raise. In fact, right now, I'd get a raise at every school I've ever worked at in Vermont, Swan, Hardwick, South Burlington, or in Middlebury, where I grew up. Our situation did not get this way overnight. We won't fix it in 1 year, but we can't keep agreeing to less when we're already at just about the bottom. This matters. Many of us work 2 or 3 jobs, struggle to pay off loans, can't save for a house, can't afford to save for our kids' education.
Like that is 2 minutes.
Okay. Our students can and do come home tired, cranky, distracted, upset, and dysregulated, but we, trained professionals, need to be rested, resilient, creative, compassionate, and committed to being at our best all times. Our students expect us to be these things. Our community expects and votes for top of the line, uncompromising education. Please invest in us, your most important asset. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll end with a note that all that we have said will be sent to all of you in text copy. I
Okay. Thank you very much.
think that's it. Thank you.
Very helpful. Right. So we are moving on to the next order of business, which is the consent agenda. Items that are fairly pro forma, minutes of previous meetings, etc. And so we take them all as one lump package. And of course, any board member can pull an item off of the consent agenda for questions or discussions if they wish. The first step to that is a motion to approve the consent agenda from a member of the board.
Did we approve the consent agenda?
Thank you, Lucy. Is there a second? All right, thanks, Tim. Any discussion?
I raised some questions about this just as a new board member last time and heard from Libby about kind of like on the admin level, what happens to these before we get them. I sent a question follow-up to Tim and to Mia and Libby and was asked to ask about it in person here. So I'm not sure who I'm addressing that to, but I'm asking it again. So because I'm new, as I look at this last page on the warrants, it says that we certify some school board director, 2 school board directors who signed this. I'm not sure who they are. So that's one question. Who signs this? And that we are certifying that there are good and sufficient vouchers, invoices supporting such payments. So my questions are, is this statutory language that we have to include here? If not, then is there something else that we could have there? Personally, if I'm the one that's signing this, or it's implied there, I don't know where to find as a new board member those vouchers. I, based on what Libby said, feel very comfortable that there is a process by which someone reviews them. But that's not what this says, right? This doesn't say we're aware that there's process.
Right.
If we looked through, and sort of said, oh, now it's 6 times the amount for paper this week than it normally is. I would like to know, as a new board member, how would we easily access those invoices, even to just double check and say, that seems odd, or, someone's, got something on here that doesn't seem like it's part of the regular business. And I haven't gotten a clear answer about this language and about that process. And so I don't know if someone here knows more than the explanation that was given. But I would also just request, I think as a new board member, that there should be an abstain option in our votes. Because I would personally just abstain and say, it's fine to have more background. I think someone is looking into the answers to my questions, but as of tonight, I don't know enough about this to feel comfortable signing this in some way. So if there's more background information about that, I was asked to talk about it out loud tonight. And if not, then I would request there's an abstain option, just pending more info about what this is.
Sure. I don't think that the actual language of those 2 sentences there are written in law, but I think it's just boilerplate language that does flow from the rule that the board has of oversight of finances generally. And that we have, as a board, decided to delegate the process of that to our business manager. And the steps are that it's in the consent agenda every meeting as a way of putting in front of the board and the community to raise questions about any individual line item. And then if it passes through the consent agenda, then it's my signature that goes on it and the treasurer's signature that goes on it. And after both of those signatures are on it, then they pay the bills. So those are the steps of the process that involve the board. I don't know if I actually answered your questions though, Ella.
I'll ask for an abstain option. No, I don't. I still, I still don't think that what we understand backs up us being able to certify here that there are good and sufficient vouchers. I think I would be more comfortable with different language, and maybe I can talk with Tim or someone else about it, but I don't understand why we don't have something that says that we've delegated that authority and that we understand that there's a process and that we have easy access to flagging things, and being able to, click on a link and double spot check those things if we have concerns.
Yep.
So if anyone else has more information, Tim?
I don't have a ton more.
Go for it.
I don't have a ton more information. By the way, I can just share how I viewed this coming out as a former new board member. I've always viewed this as sort of a sunshine exercise, right? And that these are laid out here so that we, board members, community members, anybody, can flag, raise anything kind of like what you're talking about. I think your point's well taken about the language at the bottom. I think this is probably some manner of, you know, there's a form that got carried forward and, you know, so I think when I look at this, I don't feel like I'm certifying anything because we're not signing anything. We're just kind of engaging in the sunlight exercise. But your point's well taken, and you know, it's something that I'm happy, and I think in the operations committee, it would be worthwhile. I'm kind of looking for head nods from my fellow operations committee friends.
We'll see who's on the operations
Yeah,
committee
we
after
actually
tonight.
don't know who's on it. But I think it's probably worth having Mike, our business manager, and Libby kind of walk through the process and get a refresh on it. It's a good time. I think like periodically when you have new people calling out things, it's like a totally reasonable question. So I think there's so two things. One, I think there's always an abstain option if you don't feel comfortable on anything. You know.
Yeah, and I should offer that. I've just been forgetting.
Yeah, there's always the ability to abstain and totally, I think that's fine. I just wanted to explain from my end, I think this is sort of I don't approach this as something that we would be, you know, reviewing everything, but if we did see something funky, it's our opportunity to call it out. I don't know if that's helpful, but I do think, and I welcome the opportunity for kind of just taking a look at the process, understanding like how we've delegated what you guys do at the admin level, and then we can all get comfortable with it. And if that means changing some language, like, sounds great.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not suggesting in any way that there's not that process.
Right.
But
Oh, yeah, no,
this
we should know
language
it.
is not that.
Doesn't,
So-
right, doesn't describe the process. Yeah.
And now I want to apologize because I thought Mia was going to answer you and Mia thought I was going to answer you. And when she texted me today, she's like, "You going to answer Ella?" I was like, "Are you going to answer Ella?" So I apologize that you didn't get an email right away. Yeah. So I just apologize that
That's
that
all
took
right.
a while.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so to be clear on this bit though, too, it's also, these checks have already been cut and the monies have been dispersed, correct? Because it says check date is 3/13. So it's not as if we're stopping payment, like, or could we? Hopefully.
That would be a good question for Mike Chelsea, who's
Okay,
our
yeah.
Director of Finance.
Yeah, so I'm just coming from the world of like approving a timesheet on a weekly basis so that a check can get cut for a salary for an hourly employee. I don't think that quite is.
It's possible that the check is dated 3/13, but not yet signed. Because I have heard that if I don't sign the warrant, do the signature electronically after a board meeting, they're waiting on me to actually.
That's not fun. Yeah, so we should make sure we
Clarify.
know how that is working, because that seems quite powerful, but if we don't, I don't fully understand that, so it like feels like that deserves some inspection.
These are all great
Yeah,
questions that I'm
they're
sure
great.
Mike and Chelsea can give
Yeah,
you
and hopefully
better
it's
answers.
clarified and can be slightly modified.
So Tim, you'll get this on the
Be on the next
agenda for
operations
the operations committee meeting, and then you can report back after you've heard.
Sounds good. And if anybody, depending on who's on it. But if folks aren't on it and have specific questions, welcome to either come and observe or send in questions in advance and we can make sure they get asked.
I just want to add one thing. I think the most important thing to me is that these are accessible to the entire community, right? And so whether or not, you know, I sign something or Mia signs, it's more important that anyone at any point can go online and can check themselves.
It's pretty wild.
And,
in a good
and
way.
that, like, for transparency's sake, is what I care most about.
Right. Yeah, I think having the accessibility is important, but it also. Sometimes if everyone assumes anyone can look, the question is anyone looking? You know?
Tragedy.
We all can,
Everyone's doing it.
so-
It's everyone's responsibility. It's no one's responsibility.
Yeah, and if it's something, you know, as a new board member that we're gonna every single time, it would, you know, be useful to just understand what it is that we're saying. every
Yeah.
single time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks, Ella. Yep. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the consent agenda? Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. So we've got two. I don't know if Anna, you got that. Sure she did. Okay, great. All right, thank you. Moving on to potential board action of appointing Hillary Montgomery as the school treasurer. So the district, I guess it's district treasurer, the district, the treasurer is also the person who is part of this process as far as reviewing things. I will fully admit, I don't know exactly what the treasurer does in this process, but it is part of their job. They sign the warrant after I do, or
Where he comes
the
in
same.
to talk to Mike, yeah.
Yeah, so she enters the building, she has a conversation with Mike. We need to have the treasurer sign off on these things in order for warrants to get processed and bills to get paid. Hillary has been serving as the school treasurer for at least 3 years, maybe, or the district treasurer for at least 3, maybe 4 years. It is an elected position, actually. And she did not have this, like, do the process to get on the ballot. And then so she tried to get write-in votes, but didn't get enough write-in votes to get elected. There's nobody else who was on the ballot. So we don't have officially have a school treasurer or district treasurer right now. And when there is a vacancy of an elected position, the board is tasked with appointing someone to fill that role until the term is out. And that's how actually some of us got on the board in the first place, as board members. And so we're being asked to appoint her to be treasurer. And so that's the ask before us.
Does the state require that it's somebody from community? Or how did, what's the?
That's a great question. I just know that it's a line on the ballot. And I actually looked this up. I don't know how long the term is for, if it's a 3-year term or she has to be on the ballot every year. I'm actually not certain. Right. I don't know, but it's not a board officer position like we did last meeting. I know that it's a different position. And I think it probably makes sense for it to be someone who's not on the board if they are somebody who's going in and doing either the spot check or a conversation or something with the treasurer or the CFO, so that there isn't any appearance or whatever of a conflict of interest, board signing off on warrants and board member signing off on warrants in role as treasurer. But that's just, I don't know if that's a rule, or it's just a guess I have.
How many write-ins would you have to have?
I don't know. Honestly, there were 130 write-in votes. I know that. I just don't know how they were allocated. Yeah.
I think it's the same number that you would need signatures in order to get on the ballot.
I've heard
And that's
that 25 or 30.
5% or something like that.
Yeah. So.
I know because I was written in for several positions one year and I thought like that meant I had to take them, but I had only gotten 1 or 2 write-ins.
But really, you
so-
just made a couple people mad and they
Yeah.
were like, let's put Scott Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. I'll check it.
As
And John Odom
as
assured me that
animal warden?
I didn't meet the threshold.
To be
Whatever.
mayor.
Yeah, exactly.
dog catcher, exactly, animal warden.
Justice of the peace.
So,
Is it potentially problematic?
I think she actually spells it with 1. I have a cousin who's a 1L. Anna has been corresponding with her and she's been using 1L. Anna has.
Okay. There's a broad change.
You won't have to spell it out. You say Hillary Montgomery. That'll do it.
So the, I think what we would need is a motion to approve her to be district treasurer.
Forgive me. So she's been in this role for how long?
About 3 or 4 years. She was not the treasurer when I started as a board member and I started about 5.5 years ago. So somewhere within that time. there was a turnover, and it wasn't all that recent. It was 3 or 4 years ago.
Can you share your experience with her? Libby?
I don't have much contact with her, quite honestly. The business office has way more contact. I wouldn't be able to fill her out in a crowd, but the business office does. I mean, I haven't heard any critiques of her work or that there's any kind of slacking there. I mean, I would hear that if there was a problem, but I haven't heard any problems.
Is there, thank you, Jake. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I think Tim beat you, Scott. Any more discussion or questions?
So is it a stipended similar to the board position? Is it a volunteer position? Is it a paid position? Who does this person report to? Is this person asking us to? You've said we've been asked by her
Yes.
to appoint her.
Yes.
And that's something that you guys have typically done before in the past, if there's not a elected.
If there's a vacancy, not filled by an election, or somebody resigns early.
I don't know if you've done it for a treasurer.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
As far as in my experience, it's been board members. I don't believe
I'm asking about the stipend.
about
right
the
now.
stipend.
I'm asking.
Yeah.
Hold that question.
Yeah. Our stipend is approved by the voters. And there's nothing on the ballot that provides a stipend for the treasurer or the clerk. We also have a district clerk that was elected, Tammy Legacy. She was on the ballot. Any other questions while we're holding on to that one?
For accountability, I think it would be voters, like, because as an elected position, I don't think she would be as specifically accountable to us or.
Right.
Anna says it's a 1-year term for the warning.
So she needs to be on the ballot every year, or this role is on the ballot every year.
A treasurer is required, so there's nobody else begging for this position. Just know that.
Yeah.
I'm just reading Anna's text that I've missed. No stipend on the warning, not sure. She's not sure.
Yeah.
And Mike hasn't gotten back to me yet.
And I wrote to Sue Siglowski, the head of the VSBA. I didn't ask about a stipend.
Feel like I've heard it's about. But my confidence in that is not 100%.
Which is the same as an elected board member. But vice chair, it's 1,250 and chair, it's 1,500. So there's a difference.
She has a salary in the city report. Anna's looking now.
She's wow, Anna. She's a salary in the city report.
Let me tell you, people, Anna's a stalker. She doesn't know that. She knows where
Stay on
to
her good
look.
side. Stay on her good side. Oh, how would you figure that out?
With more information later on in the meeting, if you have an active.
We could table the
Sleuthing.
motion and move on to something else and come back to it later in the meeting. Yeah, we can table the motion. I think the person who has to table it is the person who made it. Is that right, parliamentarian? Hold on, I brought my cheat sheet.
Let me. I believe that's true.
If I volunteer.
Great.
I voluntarily table my prior motion regarding the school treasurer.
Okay,
Let's not forget though.
then we won't forget. We're tabling it until. Next item on the agenda is the Q2 financial report. So I'm gonna kick it to you, Tim. Okay.
So on this, I'm actually, now that I'm thinking, with a couple of board members, I almost wish we had Mike here for this to walk through this for the first time. Yeah, no, I didn't think about it until just now. So I'm gonna do my best. And if you guys have questions, please ask them, and everyone else from the operations committee, please jump in. So big picture, quarterly, we get a quarterly financial report and it looks generally like this. What you'll find is the first page is going to have the revenues that have come in so far. The second page is going to have the expenditures that are out so far or committed. The third page is the fund balance. That page doesn't really get updated too much throughout the year because the fund balance is what the fund balance is at the end of the fiscal year. And so it kind of stays in, it stays as is pretty much for the whole year. I think there might be some amount that changes like on the track for what's spent to date, but other than that, like the actual fund balance is going to be set for the year. And then the last page is some information about our capital funds and some our outstanding debt and some other smaller items like food service and grant funding. So that's the format that we get. And for these quarterly reports, our process is that Mike, our business manager, and Libby kind of walk through it with us at an operations committee meeting. And then, so that happened last operations committee meeting a week or two ago. And then we bring it to the board and say, here's, you know, we kind of report on what the discussion was, what the items that were flagged are, and kind of we don't line by line it. It's just like what whatever we sort of talked about in the meeting. So going to my notes from that. The bottom line from Mike, like on revenues and expenses, there's nothing of concern at this point, or as of December 31st, the end of the second quarter. Couple items to look at. He said we're not going to reach our budgeted amount for tuition. That's kind of small line there. I think it's the if you look at about handful of lines, like 5, the tuition private pay.
Private pay, okay.
Yeah, we were expecting to have more tuition than we are actually receiving or expecting to receive to date, and that's simply because some people who were tuitioning from other districts last year moved into the district, so you don't have private pay. That is going to be more than made up for in the interest income, according to Mike. He's been investing our fund balance and some revenues from a tax anticipation note in I think a money market fund, and it's been earning, I think, prevailing interest around 4%. So we did not have that budgeted for. This first year we did a tax anticipation note. This past year, we weren't expecting to have as much revenue on hand in an account that's earning interest. So those two were sort of like things to mention, but not anything of a concern, and they're relatively modest in the scope of our budget. Said Medicaid amounts are coming in light, but that it's not material right now. That's an area of concern, not specifically how much of the Medicaid funds are coming in, but the Medicaid world he describes as really completely changing right now, and that staff is really, I think, both in MRPS and statewide, is really struggling to understand the new landscape. So it's an area that we should watch right now, but I think because of materiality, it's not particularly a concern. The only thing really noted on the expense side was there's few open positions, but generally speaking, I'm through it to see if I saw anything. I meant to mention anything again. Like a lot of this stuff is, they're just amounts, they're receivables from the state that's just going to come in, by the end of the year. So it's not something that we're terribly concerned about. So there are, I think he noted that there are a couple open positions. Maybe there's a little bit of savings to be had there. That's pretty much what we talked about. I think food service, that's one that we do expect to exceed the budget, probably by as much as, I think he said $200,000, if that was my note, $200,000. So something to watch there. And then the other thing we talked about was, as I'm sure everyone saw in the press, there's the issue with the custodian. We were asking a lot about, what financially, what did that look like to the district? But fortunately, it was pretty small dollars. It was caught early by Tom, kind of going over receipts and I think being really diligent in how He tracks his expenses and inventory. All in all, I think we're expecting about a 10K loss on that, but it's not, it's very
More.
unfortunate.
Libby says a little more.
A little more, okay.
But not much.
It's probably not. I don't know what our deductibles are on any of our insurance policies, but I would be surprised if it was that low. So it will be a loss, but not material. So with that, I think I'm going to look to my friends on the operations committee if there's any other notes that we should flag to the full board.
I don't think there's any other notes on that, but I know it's still taking me time to wrap my head around the fund balance. And I do think it's worth just kind of going over what's on that page. Because there's some additional notes in there about like 2%, 4%, and that's basically our request. And I don't think we ever came up with a policy on the like how much we would want, but that's sort of an ongoing conversation as well. And so
We have 2% written in policy, and we've discussed making that 4%, but I don't think the actual change has ever been made.
Exactly. And so that's sort of there as like holding that thought for when we decide or don't decide to take that board action. But yeah, I don't think I'm a fund balance expert, but if folks have questions about what all of those things mean, I think now's a good time to clarify.
Quick walk through the fund balance. Who's up for it? All right.
Second that.
So what you're looking at here is sort of from the audit year end 24 budget, we were carrying $3.4 million forward. So that's the total amount of we refer to it as fund balance. Basically it's carryover, what we have left over after all expenditures. Some of that is spoken for though. So that's what we're going to talk about down below. But what you see right under that $3.4 million is the unaudited 25 results. So I think the audit, I don't know where.
We're almost there.
Okay, we're almost through the audit. And at that point, we'll just like have a FY25 year-end FY25 fund balance. But right now, what Mike's doing is just showing that he expects that we added about $176,000 to the fund balance last year. So that's just doing that piece. So last summer, now we're going to talk about how some of this is spoken for. Last summer, we decided to move $1.5 million from our fund balance into our capital fund to move forward on some primarily Windows renovations, both at UES and at MSMS. Also do some.
Mike's on it.
Hey,
Yeah.
all right. Thank God.
You're doing great, Tim. You're doing great. Mike's
Awesome. So we put that 1.5 in, haven't spent it yet. We're working through that, and we can give an update anytime on that project. We got one at the ops committee meeting, and we're working to identify which types of windows we want to put in. We're also doing some work on the MSMS playground, which is going to involve some soil removal and some fencing and other things to make it a more useful space and friendly with the neighbors. There was long ago, we committed some funds to the track project, about $400,000. We spent about $250 of that. So there's about $150 left that is committed, but we have not yet spent it. There might be some updates on that after December 31st. And we also, for the longest time, set aside some funds for a net zero study. Not sure if we will ever get to that, to be perfectly candid, but it's been in there and we haven't done anything with it since we've committed it. So when you put all that together, it gets us to like what we have for real after all these commitments as of the end of fiscal 25 at 1.9 million. We have a policy that says we should aspire to have at least 2% of the current budget held in fund balance at all times. It's sort of a source of working capital, working cash to pay bills, and also in case something happens and we just have an unanticipated expense we need to get after quickly. in talking about that, over the past year, we've kind of viewed that as a little light, the 2%. And I don't think we haven't landed firmly on like a bare minimum or a target. A little concerning if we were to say, it has to be this much at all times, because that would mean if something happened, we have to put in our budget all at once for the next year. So I think we're still trying to understand that. And to be honest, the legislature is taking a lot of testimony right now on fund balance practices across the state, schools across the state. That's something we've talked about a little bit in the operations committee. I think they're struggling with how schools should all use a fund balance and whether there's inconsistencies. Mike has talked before about schools that he worked at before where they really weren't carrying any kind of fund balance forward. So I think we're in a good position that we have it. I think we're in a good position that we're kind of targeting at least the 4%. So that would be, 4% of our 26 budget would be $1.3 million, in which case we still have, another 600,000 to the good over top of that.
Do you have a sense of like what the year over year trend for that fund balance has been? Like, has it been relatively steady at almost 4%? And that's why you were considering?
We've been well over 4% for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if we've been adding every year, but I know we added a lot during COVID, right? When we had a lot of budget that, when you're not
doing substitutes.
doing things.
Spend money we didn't need to spend.
And then it's kind of carried forward. And so the past year, a lot of the work that the board's done is say, okay, well, we've had some longstanding capital needs. We've had a longstanding fund balance that we've been carried forward. This is a match made in heaven. We can work these two things together and achieve some of these. So it's been a big project for the admin team, for the board, and so it's fund balance.
That was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you did a great job. Much better than I could have done.
I think I've been replaced. I can just not need to attend anymore. Tim, that was outstanding.
Heck no.
So Mike is our chief financial officer. He's new to us this year. He's phenomenal and learned our system very quickly. So Mike, we are having a conversation. Do we want to bring back Hillary?
No, let's stay on the financial report, because then if board members have questions about the quarter 2 report, Mike's here to answer them. The actual, like if you have the line of this extraordinary reimbursement for special education. I don't know. If there's questions that people have about the actual quarter report.
Can you remind me, it's not that food service was costing a lot more. It's this line about food service transfer. Why?
Mike, can you talk about the food service transfer?
Absolutely. So food service is its own fund on our books. So it's not commingled with, our teachers' expenses and everything else, right? Books, supplies. So because of that, we track all revenues and expenses out of the food service program in its own fund. We don't raise enough. We don't get reimbursed enough on a per meal basis to cover all of our costs. So the transfer in is the difference of what we have to pay out of local money to have a food service program that feeds 1,200 kids with some of the highest participation rates in the area. So Jim and his team are doing a great job, and this is what it costs to run a high quality food service program.
So like when we were designing the FY26 budget, we thought that we might need to transfer 110, but it's looking more like 275.
Yeah. So yep. Sorry, go ahead.
And that explains that line. And then maybe for like FY27,
we've already
changed it to something bigger.
Yes. So to answer your question, Jake, I mean, this budget cycle, I try to bring not only revenues in line with what they should be, but also expenses. I just think it was kind of futile for me to keep doing what's been done in the past. So I revisited every line item, and that's why expenses went up by 2 million, but revenue went up by 1 million to represent what's actually happening. So yes, Food service is now loaded in the budget for 27 of what we anticipate it to be. I work very closely with Jim, all his compensation and benefits for his team, all of the food costs, any kind of equipment repairs, all of it. So yes, I think we're closer to 300 in fiscal 27, 285, 290, something like that.
Got it. Thanks. I wasn't trying to like call anybody out. It's more trying to tell the story of a line on the expenditures.
Absolutely. Yep.
So
Yeah.
just to summarize, to make sure I understand it, when establishing the FY 26 budget, which we did back in FY 25, we said to ourselves, we think 110 is good. And what we're realizing now is that we actually should have set it at 275. And you made that correction for within the FY 27 budget.
Yes, correct.
Any other questions about any of the lines on the Q2 report? All right, so then, is there a motion to approve the Q2 financial report? Okay, thanks, Tim. Is there a second? Thanks, Scott. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, all right.
Just want to say, Mia, anyone can table a motion.
Right.
And it's non-debatable. Only the maker of the motion can withdraw the motion.
Got it.
Sorry, I didn't have it right at my fingertips.
Parliamentarian work.
Appreciate that, Scott. Well, why don't we return to the tabled, the item on the table? So I think, and
Take back from the table.
take back from the table. I have it in front of me. I have removed that we table it, but it doesn't have taking it off the table.
Take back from the table.
Take back from the table. Do we need a motion for that?
Yes, it
Okay.
needs to be moved.
Would you like to make that motion?
I move that we take Jake's motion back from the table.
Okay, and is there a second? Okay, thanks, Jake. All those in favor? Any opposed?
We're
Any-
just voting to talk about it.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yep.
We're just taking it back from the table. Any abstentions on that? Okay. All right, so now the discussion of appointing Hillary Montgomery as the school treasurer. We got the answer. She has a $2,000 stipend. And it's a 1-year position, generally elected by the voters, but wasn't on the ballot, and we have no other people desiring to fulfill that role.
Mike, can you quickly describe your relationship with the treasurer?
And what the treasurer does.
My interactions really flow through Anna when we send, I think, the warrants on a bi-weekly basis. Yeah, I don't have a lot of interaction with Miss Montgomery, but what I can tell you is things operate smoothly. The warrants go out, we get them back signed, and from a treasury perspective, from a school district perspective, the funds from the city of Montpelier and Roxbury both flow as they should. So that's really all I can say on that.
Maybe she's come in and talk to Christina or Grant.
Yeah,
before
she
Mike.
used to come in, but we must do it virtually now.
Mhm.
You know what? Maybe I can take this on and reach out and just align with expectations and responsibilities, and just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. But it's a pretty smooth operation, which is why I'm embarrassed to tell you I don't really know what's going on.
That's all right, Mike.
Sorry.
We do have some work for the operations committee to do a review of the process of paying invoices. And I think seeing how the treasurer fits into that will be a part of what the operations committee will do.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions or discussion about the motion on the table, which is to appoint Hillary Montgomery to be the district treasurer? All right. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, thanks, Mike.
You
Next
know,
up.
I want to say thank you, Tim, for representing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Have a good night, guys.
Bye, Mike. Thanks for popping in. Next up are committee assignments. Last meeting, we heard a little bit about what the committees do. And so today is the day to choose which committees you'd like to be on. And I'd like to start with that and see how things shake out. And if there are committees that don't have very many people on them after we see what board member desire and capacity is, then we'll figure it out from there. And if there are a few that are overweighted with people, we'll do a little shaking out. So I'm just going to go down the table to get a first read. We have desires from Rhett and Kristen as well via email, so I can share those. But we'll start with Jake.
I am currently on the operations committee and I'd like to stay on it.
Mhm.
I'm on the superintendent evaluation committee and I'd like to stay on it. And I think I maybe could have capacity for a third one. So I'll wait till other people talk and then maybe join on a third one.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jake. Justin.
I'd be happy to throw my name out for the negotiations committee. Since Rhett shouldn't be there by himself. I'm also interested in the superintendent evaluation committee.
Okay.
And similar to Jake, depending on if there's need, we can revisit.
Great, thank you. Tim?
I am on operations. I would like to stay on it, possible. Superintendent evaluation, like to stay on it, possible. I'm on policy. I wouldn't mind maybe switching over to negotiations if that might be useful from that one.
I am on the equity and engagement, and I would like to remain there, and the superintendent evaluation, and would like to remain there. And I know this isn't officially a committee, and I actually meant to email you about this, Sam, earlier, but I would like to move into the role of student rep liaison if you'll have me.
That's fine.
Okay, that's fine. Great.
What should we say?
Excellent.
No, Mia.
Right, sitting right here, right next to me, I'm sure. That's why I wanted to email you ahead of time, but I forgot.
It's okay.
Okay, great. We could talk later about that. And if anybody else does want it, I'd be happy to thumb wrestle you for it, but I've been thinking that would be a good place for me. All right, Casey.
I'm currently on operations and equity engagement. I'm happy staying on those.
Great.
And totally willing and flexible to take on a third or others. Some interest maybe in the policy.
All right, great. Thanks, Casey. Ella.
I would like to join the policy committee. I'm interested in equity and engagement. And I'm interested definitely in superintendent evaluation, but I'm not really clear also how the full board interacts with that process. But definitely would like the first two.
Okay. Great, thank you. Scott.
Yeah, so I'm glad to hear that you're interested in the liaison to the student reps, because I've enjoyed it, and I didn't want that position to go unfilled.
Right.
So I'm thrilled that Mia, you're here.
Good. Thank you.
I would love to stay as the MRPS rep on the Career Center board.
Thank you very much.
I also would love to stay on the operations committee, and I too would be interested in negotiations. And I can't remember, I'm trying to do the math in my head, but I know we had 4 in the past on that. And so we have, I think, at least 4, so it makes me happy.
Yeah, that's great.
And right now, the way the CVCC board is organized, I don't have any additional board committee assignments there. But I was on the negotiation committee for the last teacher negotiation there, and that was a 2-year. So,
Contract.
yeah, that's a
Okay.
2-year, so I have at least a year before that comes up again.
And so for right now, it's just being on that board?
Yeah,
Got it.
exactly. There's no
Okay.
additional committee assignments that I have beyond just the board. And so I think historically, we've treated that as like essentially the equivalent of a committee assignment.
Yes, yes, we have. Okay, and then Rhett's request was to remain where he is, which is negotiations, policy, and the equity committee. And then Kristen's request was superintendent evaluation and negotiations are her top two. She had one other that she was, oh, policy was another, was a third. Okay. So if I got all this, that's operations committee has Jake, Tim, Casey, and Scott. The superintendent committee is overloaded, so I think we need to have a conversation about that with Jake, Justin, Tim, Mia, Ella, and Kristen.
I'm not gonna read into that at all. Just gonna let that lie.
Maybe they think it means hanging out with you a lot more.
I think that's exactly
what
what
it
it
is.
is. My sparkling personality.
Negotiations is Justin, Tim, Rhett, Scott, and Kristen. Policy is Ella and Rhett. Equity is Mia, Casey, Ella, and Rhett. So
Did you say Christine talked to?
she said that was her third option. She would take, like, I think she'd like to just be on two, and if she needed to get shifted around somewhere, policy was a third option for her.
Man, can I just ask quick clarifying? So right now, Rhett is listed as negotiation.
Mhm.
And I thought I remember something about Jim
Mhm.
staying on, I don't know what you call ex officio, I don't know what you call him, but he's on it through the end of this current negotiation.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I would like to see a third person join the policy committee if possible. So and then I do think we need to talk about having a fewer people on superintendent evaluation. And then negotiations and having 5 people. If the negotiations committee was all meeting at once, it would mean that they would be a quorum of the board, but usually you break them up having to do with
So
negotiations.
next year, we're negotiating with AFSCME.
Right.
And then the year after that, well, we don't know because we don't know what the years the teachers will sign,
Right.
a 2-year or 3-year.
Okay.
That's still in the air. So, and the MRESSA, the instructional assistants just said it are finishing up a 3-year, so.
Right.
They won't be negotiating for a while.
So
yes,
what
we
I'm
try to
just wondering
split it
is we
up.
don't necessarily need 5 people on negotiations. What were you
I'm
gonna say?
happy to pull off negotiations, go back to policy. if that would
Oh.
go better.
Okay, great. That's great. Thanks, Tim.
And do we need to vote to appoint Jim if he's gonna continue on past his?
I don't think he's really on a committee per se, he's just helping out.
Okay.
right? Like,
The board can invite anybody they want to their side of the
Gotcha.
table, and
Okay.
then Rhett would be the one who signs anything, because you
Gotcha.
have a board member there.
Yeah, is there a formal like, so Rhett's. So each of these committees has like a formal role and then supporting.
Yeah, there's a chair for each committee.
That was
Yeah.
the word I could come up with.
That's
too.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm happy to step down off superintendent if there's already a party.
Okay. Great. Is there one you'd like to go to instead? Bless you.
Where would you want?
Where do we want? I don't know, operations, that would be 5 people as well. You could go to policy if you'd like, but I'm not trying to push you anywhere.
Sure.
You could also just be on one committee. That's really the only, that's the requirement.
Feels a little bit like cheating.
The equity engagement committee will make you work anyway, whether you're on it or not, so. It's
true.
You could just say that's a.
I will say that.
Tell me more.
That would give, well,
Say justice.
Say more.
you do have a good interest in what does engagement look like with the community, so your perspective would be helpful.
Oh, fair. Yeah, then let's do that.
That does give us
Based on my
5,
email.
which means that if we are all there, it's technically a quorum of the board. But I think the way that that works is we're just very clear that this is, we don't make board decisions, we just make committee decisions to recommend something to the board in our meetings.
And those meetings are all warned, so.
Correct. Okay, so where we're at right now is operations has Jake, Tim, Casey, and Scott. Superintendent evaluation has Jake, Tim, Mia, Ella, and Kristen. Negotiations has Justin, Rhett, Scott, and Kristen. Policy has Ella, Rhett, and Tim. And equity engagement has Mia, Casey, Ella, Rhett, Justin. And the other appointed or, officer, not officer election, but committee assignment is Scott's serving on the Central Vermont Career Center board. That this does take a motion to put all of these people on these committees. We're
Do
gonna
we
say
have one too many on superintendent evaluation? If so, do you want me to drop off?
we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's just the same situation as equity, which is that we wouldn't be making any. We can't make any decisions as the board. We can only be recommending things to the board. And if the board felt like, actually for that committee, we wouldn't want to have even the appearance of that committee making decisions on behalf of the board because it's oversight of the superintendent. I don't know. I'm just putting that
I
out
can
there.
jump off. I think I really want to stay on ops. That's my favorite.
Yep.
I also wonder, several of us who are new said we'd be interested, but we didn't talk that much about that one last time, so maybe, can you talk a little bit more about what is for that committee review and then what comes to the full board?
Of course.
So we could understand it a little more.
Sure. So the committee essentially facilitates the process, and we do that with the assistance of the Vermont School Boards Association. We hired them to run the actual, put the survey out, receive the survey, and summarize the survey. And the survey is the evaluation itself. They send it to all of Libby's direct reports, Libby, and all board members. And each one of us, every board member fills out the survey. And then the person at the VSBA takes in all of that and compiles the summary of it for us, including here's all the, it's like it's either a 4 or 5 scale rating for most things, and then with some open-ended questions. The committee works with the VSBA to kind of bring that to the full board and to work with Libby on it. So I don't remember the exact steps, but we would receive the summary from the VSBA. And I think we look at it first and ask that person questions and then say, okay, well, let's schedule an executive session of the board at the next upcoming meeting. All board members see that. And we have a discussion about what are the things that stand out to us that would then inform the superintendent's goals for the coming year. And then the committee takes that input from the board from that executive session and has a meeting with Libby to say, here's the presentation of your evaluation to you, and let's have a conversation about what your goals are for the coming year. I skipped a step at the very beginning, which is the evaluation committee is the one that facilitates the climate survey that goes out to staff, which is out right now, and takes in that data. And the committee is the one that writes the summary of the climate survey to share with board members in the community. And then board members use that climate survey summary and the raw numbers data as just sort of like background as they're looking at and answering the questions of the evaluation. There's no questions on the evaluation that directly line up with any questions on the climate survey, but instead it's more of like, well, this is the data that we've gotten from the people who work in our buildings about what it's like to work in our buildings and what they're experiencing. And so now we we use that as sort of like, okay, how does that inform how the superintendent's doing at their job?
I think given that from my first year, I'll hop off that one. That's
Okay. All right. Okay. So then we do need a formal motion to assign all those people to those committees. Do you want me to say it one more time? Or do you feel like we got it?
You just move. To sign off.
Yes.
I'll move that we sign
The people who have identified themselves for the committees that they chose.
Great. Thanks, Jake. Is there a second?
Second that.
All right. Thanks, Justin. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Well done, everyone.
Is there a period for questions after that?
Was that?
Is there time for questions or comments after that? I forget.
No, sorry, you're done.
Done.
No, what's your question?
Could we make a motion? Could we create a board calendar that would represent all of these moving parts and pieces?
You speak up.
Sorry, could we create a board calendar so that all of the, I'm sorry, I just live and breathe by a calendar, and so, you know, and we could work with Anna, like, when we send out the warnings as a calendar invite as well, just so that we can make sure that we all see who's where and when. Is that reasonable? I know that you guys, we talked about it in the first meeting.
Yeah.
You said, no, we don't do that. Is there
Can we
a
do that?
reason why we don't, and could we?
I can't see why we couldn't. I think that it would be easier if there was kind of a standing meeting day, which I don't know if there is for every
Not every
policy committee.
Yeah.
So
not every
sometimes like Anna will learn about a meeting and the appropriate time to warn it, and then it would get on the calendar, but not with a whole lot of warning. Do you know what mean?
I have an idea, which is it could actually be it's the chairs of that committee's role to get an agenda to Anna. And when that person does it, they could create a calendar invite and they could invite schoolboard@mpsvt.org, I think.
I'm not a Google person, but that happens on for some of my committee meetings.
The
So,
ones
like-
that you are on the committee though, right? You're invited to the meeting? I think what Justin's asking is, can there just be one that you can see all committees and meetings and when they happen?
Yeah.
Which is,
Oh, no, I was.
you just want to,
Is there a way, like, as these things land, they land on a calendar, and if.
Yeah.
We could subscribe to the calendar. I don't know.
Anna, would you like to add?
I know, sorry.
Jump in,
Texting me
Anna.
right
She's
now.
like, stop, Justin.
Yeah.
She wants to do it. She is itching right now, so let her.
hi, Anna. Welcome to the
Hey.
meeting.
Thank you. Yes,
So
we can we can absolutely do this. In the past, committee chairs have invited and created the calendar invites for the sole reason of being the owner of the Google Meet link that is generated per the virtual meeting requirements. But I can certainly take that on and assign ownership to the committee chair so that they can start those virtual meetings. It's all logistics, but yes, we can absolutely do this.
Great. And then I think what I'm hearing you now say, Justin, which was not what I heard you, I
I
misinterpreted
think
the first
both would
one.
be great, but it's just, for me, it's like, I want to look 2 weeks out and say like, oh yeah, that's there. You know,
Yeah,
to the
for
extent that it's.
A meeting
Yeah.
you're expected at.
Correct.
Yeah, and then the bonus would be you could see for the month of March, this is when all committee meetings are happening.
If we're that organized in advance, yes.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great.
Thanks,
Hopefully,
Anna.
hopefully.
Thank
others
you,
have it
Anna.
as well, it's not just mine.
Wait, so Anna, like, when
Anna
we're
beaming in
warning a
from the
meet, what do we do now when we have a committee meeting?
What do you need me to do?
Yeah.
Sure, I have a small cheat sheet on it. I'll get that updated and circulate that to everybody so it's spelled out instruction wise.
Great.
We can
Thank
also
you.
make this calendar public. We have a district calendar, Google Calendar that's public that anybody can click the link to add that to their own calendar. We can treat this the same way for public accessibility.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds great.
that's what I've done, so, for sure,
Great.
to make it about me more.
All right. So then that's committee assignments. So now we're gonna move on to an overview of the district quality standards. Libby, do you mind being my Vanna with that?
Not at all.
Slideshow? Thank you. So.
Quiz, right?
Share the link with me again.
Yes, sorry. Nope, no
Sorry, I have
problem.
to search for it.
It's in, here. Yeah. There we go. So I did share this with board members via email in case you want to bring it up on your computers, but Libby's going to get it up on the screen and also for the benefit of folks watching from home. And as she's doing that, I'll say this is part of what the sort of arc of, bless you, of overviews and briefings and trainings that we're putting together for as a refresh for legacy board members and as a orientation for new board members. And so the first slide is actually the list of things that we are planning to do and the dates that we're planning on doing them. And that's here in case you are hoping to learn something and you don't see it. And you can say, wait a second, when are we going to have a training about X? But this is the arc for the spring. Now, obviously at those board meetings, we're going to do other things as well. These are just the things that are related to, like I said, the refresh and the orientation, all with an eye toward what's going to give us all the foundation and the same shared language that we can use when it comes time to revisit our goals over the summer. We want to do our best to make sure that new board members and returning board members have the kinds of context and information that they need to participate in that conversation and help us set goals for the coming year. So I'm not going to read everything that's on this slide. This is mostly just informational, and please ping me, Tim and Libby, if you are hoping to learn something that you don't see up here. All right, so then, we can delete that one. All right. The district quality standard. So this is, next slide, please, Libby. The purpose of the district quality standards, they were, came into effect in July of last year. And so they're essentially at the state level, the state doing their best to make explicit what is expected of districts in order to operate the district and deliver education. I like this part of the purpose where it says they describe the core elements of a quality education delivery system. And so because the state of Vermont is the entity that has the ultimate responsibility in making sure students are educated equitably and robustly in our state, but that they delegate that responsibility to us as boards and our administration, this is their way of saying, okay, here's what's expected of you all. And so this is a pretty foundational piece of what informs and directs our work.
And it's also new.
And yes, right. It arrived in July of 2025. So even returning board members maybe have not dived into the district quality standards as much as you may with other aspects of our jobs. And then this next slide is just my way of using a graphic to describe that delegation of responsibility from the state. Okay, so Anna shared with us the Word document, which I thought was very helpful to give us a chance to read through, but it's also very statutory language-ish. And so this overview is really just a chance at kind of turning that into plain English, the different categories of what it takes to run an effective education delivery system. So each of these corresponding next slides are one of those categories. And then what are the responsibilities that go within that category? And I'm showing if some of the responsibility is shared by the administration, that's noted. And if some by the board, that's noted. But as you'll see in a few later slides, it's actually all board responsibility. So when it comes to budgeting and accounting, it's the administration that accounts for what we spend, reports that to the AOE, and manages grant funding. The board's responsibility is to set the budget, establish financial policies, and provide oversight on that spending. I forgot to say at the top, this stuff is, I don't know if anybody reads the Week magazine. It's one of those like weekly kind of pulls together all of the news from the previous week. And they have a section in there called Boring but Important. That's what we're doing right now, tonight. And for that reason, this is going to be a fairly broad overview, but I also want to just make sure there's plenty of room for questions. So I'm gonna, if you want to ask questions as we go, you're welcome to.
Is this a new document?
The DQS standards are, yeah, they came into effect in July of last year.
Oh, and have we ever looked at them before?
We have not, no, as a board, we have not reviewed them.
Okay.
This is our first review of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's like the state saying like, here's the relationship, like, and what you need to do for the first time.
Yes, and I forgot to mention, they go kind of hand in hand with the education quality standards, which the board doesn't address board responsibility. Education quality standards are more about like, what's the quality of education look like in the classroom?
Gotcha.
And those also came into effect at the same time. Is that right?
Those are a little earlier.
A little earlier. They're a little,
for a
they've
bit.
been around for a little longer. So any other questions before we move on to next slide? The next category is risk management and internal controls. So this is one where a lot of the responsibility lives with the administration, and the board's role is to set applicable policies. I should also add their oversight and monitoring, not just of the policies, but of the risk management. Personnel management, the administration holds the management of all personnel, and we set policies regarding personnel and then oversee and hold the superintendent accountable. So you can also see as we go through these slides, this is another way of sort of slicing the presentation that Libby did at the last board meeting, which is the difference, the board responsibilities and the superintendent responsibilities, and how our work lives in parallel with each other and kind of touches each other, but we don't really hold the same work. We don't intersect. Data management, again, the administration tracks and uses data for operational and instructional decisions, and the board sets policy for privacy protections in data use, and then uses data to oversee and hold the superintendent accountable for student outcomes. And that last part is what are those data presentations we get from our administrators 3 times a year. Facilities management and safety. The administration is responsible for the cleaning and safety of our buildings and following safety procedures. And the board is responsible for funding capital projects, establishing policies regarding safety. When it comes to governance, this one's all us. The board is tasked with engaging the community, setting a vision, setting goals annually, measuring progress toward those goals, and evaluating the performance of the superintendent. This slide right here, on April 15th, we're going to get a much more in-depth training from Elaine Pinkney on what this looks like in practice and how we do this well. Governance protocols are, again, all the board. We assess our own performance annually, including how we have impacted how our system is doing at meeting goals and student outcomes. And we assess the effectiveness of our engagement and communication efforts. And we engage in professional development as individuals and as a group. And then processes for that, we adopt and review policies, which in our case, our policy committee does the bulk of the work and then brings to the full board. We monitor policies, which happens at the full board level with Libby's support in doing the policy monitoring reports that she brings to the board. When it comes to the financial, we hold an awareness of contracts and negotiated agreements. So the teacher and staff contracts are in the board packet and on the consent agenda before the board ratifies them. Any contract in excess of $50,000 goes to the board for approval. And then other contracts that are a lower amount are available for request. And we have a fiscal policy that dictates all of that. Our board members need to comply with state laws, and we rely on the VSBA for support in making sure that we are complying with all state laws and maintains a relationship with locally elected officials. And then the last one is where the AOE says, here's our responsibility in making sure you are all doing this. We need to receive a self-assessment from you once a year. And then they review, when they review that, they basically give districts a grade. And if there are districts that need more support based on self-assessment and AOE review, they give them kind of a 3-year chance to get better. And then, it's the AOE that is tasked with enforcing these district quality standards and ed quality standards. So
That has not happened yet, just to be clear.
right,
Yeah.
because they're new.
That's like the big new thing.
Sure.
The 3-year thing you're saying hasn't happened yet?
Right, because
Yeah.
the district quality standards haven't been around for 3 years and the ed
Right.
quality standards have, however, there isn't any kind of assessment of a district.
How a district is doing at meeting those ed quality
Right.
standards, not yet, I see.
Right.
And then the last one is just a list of things where we are doing the implementation of the district quality standards. Even though the actual standards are new, a lot of these things are things our board has been practicing already. We have a work plan and an annual calendar. We have policy committee work. We have an annual facilities report that we receive from the administration once a year, and the operations committee works with the administration on kind of an ongoing basis with that. We receive the quarterly fiscal reports from the administration. We get the student data reports 3 times a year. We have a superintendent evaluation process. We have done a self-evaluation once. This is definitely an area where we can get a lot better. And when it comes to professional development, we take advantage of the Vermont School Board Association conference in the fall, as well as webinars throughout the year. So those are just some examples of just how we're putting it into practice. Not necessarily, this is not an evaluation of how well we're doing. It's just showing how we put it into practice. Any questions about the standards and how they relate to us? Yeah, Jake.
Did you see anything in there that you feel like we're not doing or we need to beef up?
No, I think the board evaluation, a self-evaluation, we could go get better at. I think we could get better at evaluating ourselves on, I think we do fine at meeting these standards, but it's more about what's the impact we're actually having on student outcomes. And if following a process that is offered to us either by the AOE or the VSBA could help us get better at assessing that, I would very much be excited to do that. And then I think on self-evaluation, we could do a better job of once a year checking in on how we're doing at community engagement. I think we've done a good job aspiring to around community engagement, but we haven't yet really checked back in with ourselves and said, how are we actually doing at that?
When do we have our first self-evaluation on this?
It is planned for the 3rd of June, the board effectiveness assessment.
Right. And then we'll submit that to AOE and they'll.
I don't think that's when AOE is asking for it. It's just that we've put it on the calendar ourselves to help us with this process of getting ready to set goals for the coming year. But then when the AOE requests it, we would use that probably to say, oh yeah, we've done that. And here's how we would report our effectiveness.
Right.
There's not a set time to do it. Like, I think we did it with CCC board, like maybe 2 meetings ago.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
There's not a set time.
Yeah. And it was, we had no idea what we were doing. So now it makes sense because it's the first time. Maybe I should speak for the whole board.
Any other questions?
For how this is laid out, is
Mhm.
there, I guess, a standard framework or rubric that everyone's going to use so that
comparing apples to apples across.
Like the evaluation, you're saying?
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean,
There was a pilot rubric for DQS that Jill, me and I sat down and did.
In the fall, sometime in the
In the
fall
fall.
last year.
It was just a pilot, and we submitted those to the Agency of Education. And got no response, like nothing happened with it or anything like that. So I would have imagined that they would try to do that each year.
Yeah, and if we don't have something like that from the AOE that we can use, if we didn't want to use the pilot, for example, and we didn't have that by June, the VSBA does have its own version of this.
Okay.
That we can use for a self-evaluation.
what was your experience with that?
In
Was
doing
it-
the pilot?
Yeah, I mean,
Rubric. It was, told us you're doing a lot of good things. And there,
It was fairly easy to fill out. We just
Yeah.
went through and it was a similar, does not meet, is not proficient, meeting, on the way to proficiency, meets proficiency, and then exceeds. So it was, and if you take that Word document that Anna shared in the board packet,
Mhm.
it was essentially each one of those numbered ones
right,
and then in the grid.
okay,
So we looked at, we report accurate and timely data as required by the Secretary of Education. Well, that one was one that Libby answered because it's her job to report it to the Secretary of Education.
thanks.
Any other questions? All right. Then moving right along to policy monitoring. So we have 2 monitoring reports in front of us. D3, responsible computer, internet, and network use. And D4, Title 1A, that's compatibility or comparability. And again, just like with the consent agenda, we generally move these as one package, and then a board member can pull one off for discussion once the motion has been made and seconded. So is there a motion?
I'll make the motion when I'm done showing my orange. Yeah, I move the policy monitoring reports for D3 and D4.
All right, thank you, Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, thanks, Casey. Any discussion or questions?
Quite long. They're not usually that long.
the monitoring report. They're longer when in
The
the
actual policy,
when in the policy, there's required things, or with the technology, there's a significant amount of safety, student privacy stuff that Mike takes that incredibly seriously, so he's got a lot of evidence for support of following the policy. So we put as much evidence as we can down.
And that's Mike Berry, not Mike Consessi. I mean, I'm sure he takes it seriously too, but
I don't think he really cares about internet safety, but yeah, Mike Barrett.
I can't remember the vendor, but the data breach that we had, does that
Power School.
does that fall under this time frame, or was that in the previous years?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I think it was within this year. Or it wasn't within this school year, it was
No.
last school year. No, was it 2 school years ago?
we were
in Roxbury.
We were in Roxbury
when-
debating joining the
December 24, 24.
right, so that would have been the 24-25 school year. Class action suit. That's the word I was looking for.
I just want to point out, as just a point to get out there for the new policy committee, we do not need that comparability policy anymore.
Oh, the
So
second
it would
one.
just, yeah, so it would just be, I think the way we've done that in the past is that we've just revoked the policy. Somebody's made a motion to revoke that policy, but we'd have to put it on a future agenda item.
Right. Any other questions or discussion?
I had some questions about D3, the responsible computer network, internet network use. Mostly my questions are about there is a lot in the introduction about equitable access, about healthy, safe, we talked about equitable, forward-looking, and then most of the reporting is about safety and legally compliant. And so I'm wondering if the monitoring in terms of equitable access, how you're linking to our technology enhancing collaboration and learning, sort of some of those other things, where those things are monitored, or if those are perhaps not meant to be part of this monitoring report and are just there. So I'm wondering about that, because this is very comprehensive in terms of safety, but not a lot in terms of equity, and that's in the intros a lot.
In the intro of the policy.
Of your monitor.
Even in your reporting.
Your interpretation.
Got it. That is a very good point, Ella. And I think that we have, in terms of monitoring this over time, have always kind of defined the monitoring as safety and pupil privacy, and not focused as much on the equitable access and things like that. So it's not in this monitoring report. That's a really nice point for us to think about the next time we monitor this policy. So thank you for pointing that out. I can say just, verbally, in terms of the digital environments, every kid has a one-to-one, there's equitable access to that. It's an open system for kids. So there's no way a kid can't access internet at school. I think that we actually access and use technology use a little too much if I put my superintendent opinion hat on, particularly in our younger grades. And we are actually tracking weekly usage by grade level right now. So there's some definite steps, and that's new this year. We haven't always done that. So all the principals get that. They're having conversations with their staff in order to try to decrease the amount of time kids are on technology. That's actually what we're focused on now, instead of increasing time on technology. And so those things would be part of the evidence that I would put in here.
Yeah, those are the kinds of things I would want to look for, in terms of healthy, equitable access, but certainly, there are some good discussions to be had. It would be interesting, I think, for us to know how you guys are considering healthy access, and how that's being monitored across grade levels. And the same, how do you monitor collaboration in the technology setting, enhancement of learning, forward-looking, high quality is another one. This is a lot about security, and so certainly they're not being phished and they're not accessing things they shouldn't be. But I didn't see also anything in here about kind of how are you monitoring quality?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I was wondering how I don't know if you know this question, the answer to this, but how you're monitoring computer use through grades for specifically at the high school, because I know
It's through 9 through 12.
Okay,
Yeah,
that
that's
makes
that's a really good question. So we do it by grade level, K4, and then we have 5, 6, and then we have 7, 8, just because of the way the classes are set up, and then it's 9 through 12. That's a good clarifier. Thanks, Sam.
I was thinking specifically for 12th grades, a lot of seniors have their own computers. So I don't know how well you can actually.
Well, if you're on our network, we can monitor it.
That was
Yeah. Still have you. But that's a really good clarifier. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes, question on the updated security cameras there. As a new board member, maybe you guys have talked about the modernization to our camera systems, and security of our campuses after hours. But I wasn't sure what that looked like just from this report. And as a board member coming from Texas, I'm very interested in school security and
I can
safety.
imagine.
And with kids at US, it's still very exposed physically there. So, wouldn't want you to reveal anything that would be compromise anybody's security in any way. But have we heard more about that somewhere else, or?
We haven't talked about the security cameras specifically, like that particular part of security and safety at the board level. I certainly can have Tom come in and talk about it. I know enough to be dangerous, they would know details. So if that's something the board would be interested in, we could certainly talk about it more.
I would be interested. I mean, I think it's important.
And just a really quick piece about that, we have just recently, our camera system, particularly here, was just archaic. So we've redesigned it. We've got a new vendor to do, we got new cameras. Everybody can have access to them on their phones, so we can see it. We also
Everybody
did,
on the admin team.
everybody on the admin team, yeah, so we also did, a sweep of the buildings to find out what the blind spots are outside. Board members may or may not recall, it was during a middle school graduation, we had a bomb threat. A couple of years ago,
Was it graduation or was it concert?
maybe it was a concert.
It was a concert. It was. a concert.
It was a couple of years ago and it was here and that we didn't have. It was after hours, but we had lots of people in the building, but we learned through that experience that we didn't have that place covered through security cameras. So we now do. But that caused us to do an audit because our colleagues at the MPD were not safe without having that camera access. So we did an audit of where our blind spots were in all 3 buildings and now updated that so we don't have those blind spots anymore. So it's been a place that we've done some work fairly recently. Yeah.
We can certainly have a briefing on it. From Mike and Tom. Right. Any other questions on the monitor report? Okay, all those in favor of approving the monitoring reports for D3 and D4? Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. Any abstentions? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I think that's everything.
Not super business related, but I'm appointing myself the chair of the Spirit Committee. And I would like to propose, if it's okay with the board, maybe considering like a non-business, like bowling outing or something, which I'm happy to organize and send around. If I was thinking it might be fun to just new people try to get to know each other and not talk business. One committee? It's my Spirit Committee. Spirit? Yeah.
You're the co-chair.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, this is past my bedtime. I can't take this. No, I'll send an email around, but I just wanted to float that out there. If folks are interested, I thought it would be a kind of fun way to, or other ideas. If anyone's got a great idea, I just thought that might be a fun way to spend an hour or two. Hang out. So figured I'd float it out here and seen something. No, I'm pursuing it.
Yeah,
I second that.
let's do it. Maybe he's your co-chair.
Yeah, right. Mia, cool. So it's late tonight and Brett's not here, neither is Jim. And I don't know if we can put an executive session on last minute, but maybe next meeting, executive session for the purposes of whatever we do.
Discussing contract negotiations?
Yes, that.
Yes. I don't think it would be wise to do that tonight.
Yes, exactly.
I think it should be warned,
Yes.
and for us to know if we're gonna be, yeah. And I know that's what you're saying.
Yes,
I-
exactly.
We
And
can
it's late
definitely
and I
consider
can't
that. We can definitely consider that.
articulate it.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, any second?
Second.
All right, is there
And it's
discussion?
non-debatable.
It's not debatable. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, let's get out of here. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
Thanks for your attention and work tonight.